everyone, welcome back to Islander Robotics. As always, I'm Will, and today we're going to take my 3D printer, a Raspberry Pi, and unlock the capabilities to print from anywhere. So sit back, relax with your favorite snack, and let's get started, shall we? Alright everyone, as all of you just saw, today's going to be another one of my 3D printing videos. But it's not going to be a 3D printing video where we're going to be making 3D printed parts. What we're going to do is give our printer the accessibility to be controlled from anywhere. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take Octo Print and we're going to install it onto our Raspberry Pi. For those of you that don't know what Octo Print is or Octopi is, essentially what it does is it allows you to take a Raspberry Pi and be able to control your 3D printer through a web browser from anywhere, really in your house, as well as it does allow for really anywhere in the world. And all that we'll get to later in the video, but what you're going to need for today's video is you're going to need, of course, a Raspberry Pi and a 3D printer, but you all just saw my beautiful Prusa I3 MK3. The next thing you're going to be needing is a micro SD card. Alright? Next, you need something so that you can write the Octo Print image onto that SD card. You're going to need an SD card reader, as well as a power supply for your Raspberry Pi, as well as a cord that allows you to connect to the Raspberry Pi. A cord that allows you to connect your Raspberry Pi to a 3D printer. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we have to go get the Octopi image, which all of you will be seeing up on the screen in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so what all of you can see up on the screen right about now is the Octopi website. This website is going to be where you get the image for your SD card, as well as this website. The link to this website will be down in the description bar down below, so that is more accessible for those of you that are trying to create an Octopi server. After you have that image, you're going to want to flash that image onto an SD card. I use Balancer Etcher. I already have it kind of set up right now. The last thing we have to do is we have to take this SD card reader with this SD, and we got to connect it to our computer. So connect it just like that. Come over to select target, generic storage device, hit select, and then hit flash. You're gonna have to type in your password for your computer, and then you're just gonna let it do its thing. Alright, and I'll see all of you in a couple of seconds when this is done being written. Alright, so the SD card is flashed and we have Octopi on it. The next thing we're going to do is, most people would actually say, plug this back into your computer and make changes to the boot filing system so that you can add your Wi-Fi. Now, we're not going to do that because of, depending on your computer, sometimes computers change the format of that text file, making it unusable for your Raspberry Pi to access it. So instead of doing that, I'm going to show you how to essentially connect into your Raspberry Pi through your computer through SSH tunneling. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take your computer, you're going to take your Raspberry Pi, connect to your computer with an Ethernet cord. Alright. Now this is going to allow us to access it locally so that we can make changes to that boot terminal, and that would also make our lives a lot easier. Alright, so the next thing we're going to have up is the terminal command so that all of you can see. Alright everyone, so we have the terminal up on the screen on my MacBook Pro. So the first thing we're going to do is SSH into our Raspberry Pi. So for Octopi, it's going to be running this command. SSH pi at octo, oh I spelled that wrong, OCTO pi dot local. Since we have this hardwired into our computer, we can use the .local command. And then enter. It's going to ask for the password, and just like every other Raspberry Pi device, when you first plug in that SD card, the password is going to be raspberry. Alright, so RASBBERRY. So next thing we're going to do is going to the boot filing system, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to type in cd/boot/. Alright, so just like this, cd/boot/, and we're going to hit enter, and then the next thing we're going to do is hit ls, because there's only one file in here that we have to change, and that is going to be this Octopi WPA supplication.txt. So the way we're going to do this is, in order to make changes to this file, we have to use the sudo command. sudo nano, and then nano is a text editor software that allows us to view this file over terminal. So nano, and then octopi WPA, and then supplican.txt. All right, hit enter, and it's going to ask you for the password. It's going to be raspberry, and we're up on to the web. We're up into that file, and this is the file that you use to make changes for your Wi-Fi. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down to where you see country Great Britain. Yeah, we're going to change that because you have to change it to the correct country you're in. If you're watching this video and you're in Great Britain, then leave this how it is. However, if you're in any other country, you have to change these settings. And I am in the United States, so I have to get rid of that hash mark. Now, the next thing we got to do is we got to go all the way up to this network right here. We got to get rid of this hash mark, this hash mark, this hash mark, and this hash mark. All right. Then we're going to come up to here, and we're going to put in our Wi-Fi network name. Well, that doesn't work. I forgot. And my network is Islander, ISLANDER. And my password, sorry to say it all of you, but you're going to go and see my beautiful face as I make the changes to this password. And then to get out of this file, Control X, hit yes, and then hit enter. And that's all you really have to do. Now, the way to check what the Raspberry Pi's Wi-Fi is, you just go into and say if config. Alright, and then enter, and this is where you're going to get your IP address for your Octopi. Now, instead of doing that, what you can do is just do sudo reboot. And then it's going to go through the whole reboot section and then connect through that way. Alright, so now that the reboot did happen, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 IP addresses that come up right here. Now the 10.0.0.12 is my local IP address, and I'll show you how to use that in just a sec. The other one that is your local IP address is octopi.local, the same IP address you use to SSH into your Raspberry Pi. It can be used just like the 10.0.12. Remember, if you're going to do that, it has to be hooked up to the Wi-Fi, so you can't just overdo it and go straight to that. So now that we have this all hooked up and we are positive that it's connected to the Wi-Fi, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go connect this to my Prusa i3 MK3 with this wire. Alright, now for those of you that have Prusas, yes, I know about the Raspberry Pi Zero, little kind of cheat, but the Raspberry Pi Zero cheat does not work for every printer. It is only exclusive for the Prusa. Alright, so the software side of the Raspberry Pi Zero, same thing applies for this. It's just I decided to go with the more universal version of this install. The more universal board for this install. Alright, so with that being said, I'm going to go hook this up to my printer, and then I'll show all of you how to set up your Raspberry Pi with Octo Print. Alright, so I'll see you all in a sec. Right before we connect our Octopi to our printer, we have to change a few things in the settings. Some printers you don't have to change the settings, and each printer is going to be different. So on the Prusa i3, you have to click on the little scroll wheel, go all the way down to settings, and then you're going to go scroll all the way down. So SD card has to be switched from normal to flash air, and then you have to make sure the RPI port is on the off position. All right, now this is not going to be the same for every single printer there is out there. This only applies to the Prusa i3 MK3. So check check out what you have to do for your printer before you connect your Octopi to your printer. So with that being said, let's go start up our first print. Alright, so now we're back and we're on the server side of this whole project. When you first type in your local IP address for your Raspberry Pi, it's going to show up to the screen. This is the setup screen. You're going to want to hit next, and then username, you're going to type in, let's do Prusa, since I have a Prusa, and then password. And then you have to either use disable access control or keep access control. I'm just going to go with keep access control. Hit next, and then enable anonymous. Go ahead. This is just how many times the server checks for connectivity to your printer. I'm just going to keep it with the default. Next. Oh. I did. Oh, you got to hit this button. Enable. I think it's all set. Now hit next. Next thing, enable plugin backlist processing. Next. And then this is where it gets interesting. This is just going to be Prusa MMU because it's a multi-material. Print bed, we're going to change this all to 250, 250, 250. I don't remember the exact size of the Prusa i3 MK3. However, Octopi is only going to be a tunnel to your 3D printer on what it needs to do. So as long as your slicer is all set up to the correct dimensions of your printer, you really don't have to worry about what numbers you put in for this section. Now the part that I have to pay attention to is the number of extruders. That some of you may have noticed that when my printer was up on the table with me, it had 5 extruders. So therefore, when I go into when I'm setting up the printer, I have to also add those 5 print heads. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number of extruders, we're going to go with 5, and they're all shared nozzle. All right. If you're using the MMU or you're using anything like the MMU where it only has one nozzle, so a multi-material device that only has one nozzle, you're going to want to click the shared nozzle. If it's not coming out of one single nozzle, then don't click it, and then just hit finish. I use the Prusa slicer for my printer since it's a Prusa i3 MK3, and under the Prusa slicer, you're able to send G-codes to your to your Octopi server through the slicer. So for those of you that are using Prusa, I'll show all of you how to connect your Octopi server to your slicer. And for those of you that aren't using it, you don't need a Prusa in order to use their slicer. You can use any other printer. Any printer can really be used with the Prusa slicer. So if you're thinking about changing your slicer, I really recommend the Prusa slicer. But anyways, I'm going to show all of you how to create that API pin, that password you need to connect your slicer to your server. And you just really do that by clicking over here, and then you go to user settings, application key. You have to type in an identifier in order to access this, in order for this key to be generated. And I'm just going to do Prusa generate, and then I'm just going to copy this API. And then the next thing we're going to do is open up Prusa Slicer. And then once we get in the Prusa Slicer, I'll show all of you how to load up your G-code onto your server. As well as I will show all of you how to do it without, actually, if you don't have a Prusa Slicer as well. So, alright, so the Prusa Slicer is all up. We're going to go into the printer settings. We're going to go over here, we're going to type in the local IP address for your Octopi server, 10.0.0.12, and then right here we're going to add that little that little code that we just got from the Octopi server. Command Z, copy that right in. Now what you can also do is you can go over to browse, and it's going to come up right here. You can just click it, hit OK. Another way and then if you want to make sure that you have the connection correct, you just click test, and it's going to say if it's connected or not. So now let's start up a print, shall we? Platter, add, and let's do the snowflake from last videos, alright? Let's do a snowflake from the holiday special that was just uploaded. adding it in, and then we're going to do, oh wait, I want to click it, I want to go click, I want to go bang, and then I want to go boom. And then next thing we're going to want to do, since I want this white, we're going to go over to here. No, not one. White is brown. And then next thing we're going to do is hit slice now. And then let it load. Alright, so after we do that, we're going to click, for those of you that are using the Prusa slicer, you just hit G code, alright? Now, I don't want it starting up. We're going to just say test just for right now. We're going to hit OK. Now, for those of you that don't have the Prusa slicer, we're just going to export it as normal. And we're just going to let's put it under desktop, shall we? Save. Alright, so we have the file that we upload straight to our server, as well as we have the file that we download onto our computer so that we can upload it to our server. Once we have all that done, we're going to go over to here and we're going to go onto our Octopi server, onto the nice looking web browser Octopi has set up for us. And we're going to hit connect, and it's going to connect over. Once you see operational, that means it was a successful connection and that it's all set to go. And you're going to notice over here, you're going to see the one that we uploaded straight to our server. Alright, so now for those of you that don't have the Prusa slicer and you had to download it onto your computer, you're going to hit upload right here, click this, and then you're going to hit open. And that's just going to open it up onto your server. Now the next thing you're going to do is just come over to here. You can click whichever one you want. You're going to hit upload for printer. Now when I hit print, it's going to say object doesn't fit. I know it fits because of the slicer that I used, so I'm just going to X out of it. I'm going to hit print. Now there's a whole bunch of different stuff that you can do with Octopi. You can do, there's a whole bunch of cool things that you can do with Octopi. For example, what you're seeing up on the screen, you're seeing this little graph. That is what the temperature, this line right here is what the temperature's got to be. Right here is where the temperature actually is in relative time of right now. And then same for the light blue and the blue. So the red is the tool head, the extruder, and the blue is the bed. I just wanted to explain really quickly on the basics of what that little graph does, as well as you really can do a lot of stuff with the Octopi environment. So with that being said, I'm going to set all of you up for a time lapse. Please enjoy as this beautiful little snowflake is created. I'll see all of you in a few seconds. Bye. Alright everyone, I think that is a very well done print, if I may say so myself, and that's all I have for you guys for this video. Please consider hitting that like button if you enjoyed this video, as well as that subscription with that bell icon so you can get notified when I post my next video. Until next week, I'll see you all and happy coding. Bye!